Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Klaus Müller. I'm a solutions architect from 42Q. I'm here on stage together with Christoph from AWS, and we both want to show you something about what 42Q does together with GenAI, and mainly, what does this have to do with Author? So, as a solutions architect, my job is to think about what is the next things that we're going to implement in 42Q. So what new features should come up here, what does customer wants, and of course, I'm also getting some information and some requests from my bosses. And as you may think, GenAI is all over the place. So my bosses came to me and say, Klaus, I think we need to do something with GenAI in 42Q. Which translates to me, do something with GenAI. So I was thinking, what is that, right? Where does GenAI really fit in an MES system? Now, after some brainstorming, we figured out, we have some challenges, and we really have some challenges where we don't have a very good solution for. For example, an MES system like 42Q is getting very complex after a while. So 42Q is a full-featured cloud MES, which means lots of features, lots of modules, lots of configurations, and this can become quite complex at some stage. So you may end up with kind of an expert knowledge or whatever. Whenever new features are coming out, so let's say 42Q releases a new version that we do usually every 2 months, new functionalities, you have to read change logs, you have to read changes that may come up. You need to learn again. So who can keep up with all of this? Then the system doesn't really speak my language. And on the one side, it is really my mother tongue language, German or English, where 42Q provides you a set of 7 or 8 different languages, but it's also the context. How do I say something like a product? Is it a part number? Is it a material number? Is it whatever, right? Is a unit or a serial number? So people have different meanings for things that are in 42Q. And on top of that, how do I know all of this? So whenever I have these questions, I usually go to my MES admin and usually these guys are very, very busy. So it's not always easy to get a hold of them. So we thought about, hey, we have a use case. We need a chatbot. Well, a chatbot is something that is almost everywhere right now, but our chatbot really, we want to see this as an expert level helper that allows you to say, what if I have something on my hand or straight on my front end or even on my phone that tells me everything that I should know about 42Q. So somebody who understands 42Q in and out, somebody who understands probably my data, and somebody who understands all of this and explains it to me in my language. Again, in the way my mother tongue as well as the way how I can understand it. So, chatbot, that was then my solution to get further. And we started with a phase 1. We started with what we call interactive helper chatbot. So, what we did is, we first trained it. We added all our documentation that we had. We transcribed all our training videos where we explain how 42Q works, where we give tips and guidance. So all of this got converted and got loaded into 42Q, into the chatbot. So from that point on, the chatbot knows 42Q. Then we embedded the chatbot into our portal so that it is always there. It is, once you are logged into 42Q, you have it right away. It is by design multilingual, which means he understands almost any language. He stays in context, which means whenever you have a question, you may not really understood it, so you ask again, all of this is happening straight out of the box. And finally, for every answer that he gives, he points you straight to the resources where he found this answer, which means If I want to know how to set up a part number, he explains it step by step. This is how you set up a part number. And he says, and here's the documentation where I got it. Or here's the training video where I got it. So all of this is available. Well, Arthur was born. That was the main thing when we all said, yeah. Now, what is this Arthur? Why do we say Arthur was born? Why is it not Chetty, or why is it not Robbie, or whatever? Well, I'm not sure. You may know that there is an answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything, and this answer is 42. For all of those who are not aware of this, I recommend reading Douglas Adams' book, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He clearly explains that, why it is 42. And that was also the reason why we decided to call our product 42. 42Q stands for the ultimate answer to the universe and everything. And what question do you have? Now, the main actor, the main guy in this book is one called Arthur Dent. And we thought, that might be a good thing, because the most of the time when this guy was in the book, he was answering questions and he tries to get around. So we decided it's Arthur. There was a bit of a debate, but Arthur made it finally. There's also a nice add-on to this one, because we have a lot of Q&A sessions. So whenever we have a question, now we have Arthur, and he gives the answer. Good. So the first feedback that we got, because we released it, it's right now in our product. Wow, that's pretty cool. We got very fast responses comparing to reading the documentation. It references the original sources, as I explained earlier. It gives you also a comprehensive understanding of the whole system. Usually when you ask people, they may tell you what they know about it and not the whole story. I have to say even that internal teams are using Arthur more and more, because you may know that that's the only way how to do it, but 42Q is quite big, so there is always another way to do it. Arthur knows everything. What's also interesting, we figured out that customers are using that for training purposes. So they said, if you don't know, then just ask answer, and then people learn more or less on the data themselves. And finally, with our training and video transcription, we go way beyond a pure documentation, because in the videos, it is simply explained why you want to do this. So Arthur now explains you also why you want to do this. So that was all very good, but honestly, that was not the end of the show. So once this was out there, we thought about, can there be a phase 2? And the phase 2 in our idea was really let Arthur understand the data as well. So until now, it understood the software, it understood the system, but not the data. So we decided to connect Arthur to our 42Q MES database, which simply means Arthur itself runs live queries against the connected database or the instance where you are connected right now. It provides the data that is currently connected, and it shows you something like shop orders, part numbers, routes, defects, whatever you may very likely want to know. We have limited at the first part. We are adding more and more functionalities as we go. So now, in combination with these existing documentation helpers, it shows the data as well in any language. So it translates on the fly, and also in any form. Because you can ask him, give me this in a table, or make me a flowchart out of that, or aggregate it to me, summarize it up, or whatever. So Arthur itself, by using LLMs, is very capable with all of that. And then the surprise happens, the mystery happens. So once we first connected Arthur to our database, and well, we call APIs, right? And you get back JSON code, just part number, units, defect code, location, whatever. Arthur immediately starts to explain the data. He just summarized it up. He was explaining what statuses means. He's explaining what you should do with information. He said also what's probably missing on the information. He suggests you new things. As an example, I put here one of the screenshots where I asked Arthur about a specific component that had defects. And I wanted to know, did we actually replace those? And that's a tricky question because in traceability records, you cannot really say if because the component is still there. But Arthur was looking through it and made it clear that, well, not that easy to guess, right? So the component is still there. It got repaired, of course. It got immediately repaired, which is also interesting. Then in the components list provided, there is still the components here with the reference designator, with the component number, and also an indicator that it was not removed. So there is a removed 0, but he knows it that based on the documentation, 0 means there was not removed. Then he makes some suggestions that, well, there is also something to note that the repair might happen on the component level itself and was not really by replacing the component. So, and I was really wondering, where do you know all of this from? And then we figured out, it's actually out of our training videos, because this is the examples and this is the guidance where our training videos were using these examples. So that was quite interesting, and I was really super surprised about all of this. So now, let me quickly give you a little demo how Arthur really works when you start working with it. And I hope it starts right away. Yep. So you usually start, or a very standard way to go is show me all the shop orders that are currently released. And now Arthur asks you first, what part number, what product do you want me to ask? Okay, e-bike, because we are tracing, when you have this e-bikes carousel here, this is what 42Q is currently tracing. So you get 2 shop orders. Both of them are released in January. And then I ask, okay, what units, what serial numbers are on these shop orders right now? And then you will get a response where it says, yeah, 43 units have been processed. The remaining 57 units are still not yet to start, and some units have defects. Then it's a summary. So give me the units, give me the serial numbers, and ideally give it me in a table. I want to cut and paste it out. I want to use it for something else. So then you see, okay, here are the serial numbers. Keep in mind, these serial numbers are really only the ones that have a defect, because earlier we were asking, I only want to see the units that have defects. So Arthur already figured out, now we are staying in the context. The context means serial number that have defects, so all of those have defects. Now I've asked him, are there any attributes? Attributes in 42Q are key value pairs, parametric data that we add to units. So are there any attributes recorded for these serial numbers? Again, those are the ones that have defects. And Arthur found out that, yep, there are attributes here. And here are the attributes based on every process. And he figured out that all those attributes are consistent through all these units, which may indicate probably that is one of the reasons why they failed, right? Because obviously we are collecting data, all of those fails, all of them have the same on. So we are asking him what work shift was working on that one. Who really was working on it? And he said, yep, there were 4 work shifts working on it, and the 4 work shifts are 1, 2, 3. So you have seen that. Now, what I asked him is, can you tell me which route was in place for this shop order? And let me pause here a little bit. Routes in 42Q are a little bit tricky, because there are no routes assigned to shop orders. There are routes assigned to part numbers, and part numbers are assigned to shop orders. And based on where you start your serial number, that's the route. So it's a little bit tricky to understand this, and I was really wondering what Arthur says about it. But Arthur made the clue and really figured out, yep, I know that our routes are assigned to part numbers, so I try to figure out what part number is running on the shop order, and then figure out, okay, this is the route, and it's just following a very easy step. Stage 1, inspection, welding. Then I thought, let's make this a little bit nicer, put some HTML and CSI style sheets. Yep, he does this as well. So on top of that, because I know now how all the data is, how do I configure all of this? Now Arthur goes back into my documentation and says, okay, you want to configure all of this, you have to first think about a pre-planning step, then go to the system and do it, and then create the route. As I said earlier, route assignment is a little bit tricky, so I asked him, how does the route get assigned to shop orders? Because there is nothing like this. And then he said, well, here you go, you have to do the part by route assignment. So Arthur is a very interesting guy and quite clever, actually more clever than I thought from the beginning. All right, when we've seen that, we thought, that's really cool. And for us, it's a complete new UI experience, right? Until now, we were really thinking about, I click there and I see something. Now I really interact very more in a natural language way. And it also, as said, stays in context. When I showed this to one of my product manager, they were really impressed because they said, wow, that fixes one of my issues in night shifts when my production control is not around there anymore. Then I can just have anyone who have access to the system use Arthur and say, hey, are there still shop orders available that I have to produce? Oh yes, you still have 2 shop orders to produce. And are there more units in these shop orders? Yes, you still have 100 units to release. So how can I release the shop orders? And he tells me, okay, go to shop order control, shop order browser, release the remaining shop orders, and you're done. So you may think about, hey, why? If you know all of this, why don't you do it? Now we are getting a little bit scared. This is really now our phase 3, and instead of doing it and starting work right now, we really step back and say, should we really let Arthur operate? Should we really make GenAI to release shop orders, to manipulate your production? Should an AI really make this decision to stop production? Is this something that we are ready to do so? I mean, you may know that an AI is not always 100% correct. Can we live with these limitations? How much guardrails do we have to implement? So on our side, on an IT technical side, all this can be done. But are you ready? Is the manufacturing side ready to take this? Is it a step-by-step thing? So this is really where we are right now. And there's a lot of discussions going around this if we should do the next step. Technologically wise, we can do that. I leave this now up for you to discuss, and I hand over to Christoph to give you a little bit more details about the background, how we did that.
Thank you, Klaus. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Christoph. I'm a solution architect with AWS. And I'm very excited by the use case that 42Q implemented. But the question I have is, how did they do it? So I want to introduce you to what's behind an infrastructure that's leveraged in AWS to build such a intelligent chatbot. So you may have seen that slide already today. If you've seen other sessions, this is the generative AI stack on AWS. So you can see there's 3 separate levels because we cater for all types of workload that you may want to build. So the lower level is really the infrastructure and all the tools you need for model training and inference. So all the way down to hardware where we provide GPUs off the shelf from NVIDIA, for instance, that you can deploy in your AWS infrastructure. But we also created our own hardware and chips to make the training and the inference of model more cost effective, more efficient. We have all the tools to help you leverage all that infrastructure. So for instance, our SageMaker service that really helps you accelerate all the deployment and the training of your models, building model from scratch, and so on. And then all the rest of the infrastructure that you can leverage within AWS and tie into your GenAI application. The middle level is the tools that we provide that allow you to build with large language models and other foundational AI models. So this is our Amazon Bedrock service, which is what 42Q uses to build their application. And this includes various capabilities that are built in the service, for instance, guardrails and agents, and I will explain a bit more what that means. and why this is important. And then the third level is really application readily available that leverage large language models and other foundational models directly accessible on AWS. So for example, you have Amazon Q that allows you to do similar thing to what 42Q is doing on your MES data, but on all your AWS infrastructure. So you can ask questions directly in natural language and query about your AWS setup and infrastructure. We also have Q specific for other applications within AWS. Also Q for developer, which uses AI to help you develop code, so you can really accelerate how you would build a solution like 42Q's using those tools in AWS and using AI to help you develop the code faster as well. So if we focus on that middle level and Bedrock, which is the service and the tools that we have to help you build AI-based solution. So Bedrock is a service that really simplifies a few things, and this is what we are hearing from our customer. The first one is the choice of models, and we'll see the next slide that Bedrock allows a very wide choice of models that you can use, and the idea is that this will help you optimize your cost and the latency of your applications. You can really right size and find the right model that will be not too big for your application, so you don't pay too much, so you don't have to wait too much for answers, but really select the one that's more appropriate for your specific use case. And that also allows you to optimize for the latency, for the accuracy of the results, and really select the model that you want. And as models evolve and new models get released, then you can automatically switch, well, you can switch to the newer version and get a better performance, better results. You can also customize it with your data, like we saw in class example. One of the benefits of using those applications is not just using the LLM model on its own, but it's really enriching it with all your data that's available, whether it's data that's in your 42Q MES, in your documentation, or in other places that you can go and query. We also have guardrails. I like the fact that you raised the question, should we let AI take care of these things? And we're adding more and more responsible AI checking and guardrails that you can easily implement. We can provide explanation of the chain of reasoning of the LLM to make sure that we have more control about the answers that we're getting and understand better how did the model come up to this answer, so we can, well, better protect us against these sort of issues. And then Bedrock allows you to build and orchestrate agents. So that allows you to reach out and call external APIs, connect to different sources of data, for instance, your MES, and get all that data integrated with your documentation, maybe your maintenance log, and you can really combine all that data and provide a more comprehensive answer in natural language. So like I said, in Bedrock, we have a very large offering of models, and this grows every day, and that really allows you to select the model based on the specific use case that you want, whether it's a coding assistant, whether it's a multimodal model that you want to use with images and video and mix it with like text and data. So we support some open source models. We have some Amazon developed models that are available. You can generate images, you can generate video, you can generate text. So all that with a similar API to use them makes all those models really an API call away, and you can, like I said, make the model evolves in the future and keep all your code similar. And Bedrock Marketplace also allows you to use model from all different of external sources as well. So there was a lot of talk about DeepSeek a few weeks ago. So now you can run DeepSeek in Bedrock in your own account, and you have all the guarantees that your data is not leaving your AWS account. So it's not going to be used for any other thing, any retraining of the model. So that really guarantees the privacy, the confidentiality of your data, and the control about what is happening when you use those models in Bedrock. And then finally, Bedrock agents, like I said, so one thing is using just the model to ask questions, and it's very good in like general knowledge. But when it really gets interesting is when you enrich the model with your own data, with your own knowledge. So this is where agents can help you access the data by calling APIs in your company systems. You will enrich it. You can also, like I said, have that traceability of the chain of thought and the ability to modify those prompts, understand better how the model thinks and how to better call the model to use your data and make a more meaningful response. And also include all the guardrails to monitor, to make sure that you're not going to get responses that you don't want to, or the customers cannot ask things that you don't want to. So if we look a bit more under the hood on how 42Q do it, I'll give the handle back to Klaus. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, how did we do it? And everything that Christoph was explaining, basically that's what we used, right? So we were using all our documentation, as I said earlier, and we put this all into a rack, into a retrieval augmented generation, which basically means we ran the transcription service from AWS, stored it in a S3 bucket, get all our documentation stored in a S3 bucket. We leveraged or using Bedrock agents that uses our Lambda functions to call our APIs. Then, of course, we need an LLM. In our case, we used Anthropic Closed Sonnet. We tried a lot, and the beauty of Bedrock is also that you can just try out, right? You just flip around and see, is it better, is it worse? Currently, we see the best results with Claude. And we use, as standard, our API gateways to control access to our APIs. And why did we choose this? So why? The most important one is the first that I put here. All data stays inside of the AWS account. As Christoph said, this is a very important thing for us because there is tons of discussions around who is getting all my data. Keep in mind, it's not only the data that you get response, it's also your asks, your questions. Who is training on this one? You really don't want to get this out of it. 42Q, the way it is designed, everything stays in your AWS account, in the AWS account, which seems it's as secure as the data itself because that's where it is. We try to stay, we already committed to have one chatbot for all our resources. So you've seen we have the documentation together with the API and the data. We think about new functionalities as well, and we stay with one chatbot because it should be a one go-to application. The access control is done actually through the login, so you don't really have to authenticate again. It just, once you are logged into to our portal, you have access to the chatbot. We have guardrails in place, and it's an out-of-the-box solution. So this is how we did it, and honestly, we're quite happy. We are quite happy about this one. Little of an architectural drawing how all this works. So now, what's next? What do you do with all of this information? If you want to see for Arthur in action, or if you want to know more about it, we have two booths. One is right there at the booth number F2072, or we have a little kiosk here right next to this e-bike station where we also can show you something about what we do. We can show Arthur. We can also show something what we're going to do with GenAI or with AI in 42Q. For example, we predict repair processes. We do way more about with AI instead of just using GenAI. And then you can also talk to us and try to understand how 42Q may help you and how 42Q can help you getting your issues fixed. That's it from my side. Thank you.